Means Business live on Snow and Ice Management. I'm Mike Arch with This Old Relic, and we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. Why don't we go on ahead down the line? Don, that's you.
Sorry. Hey, everybody.
Introduce yourself.
Don Stewart, owner of Stewart Lawn. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Been doing this for about 9 years now. Offer lawn and garden services, and then obviously the topic tonight is snow and ice removal.
Go ahead, Orion.
Hey guys, I'm Orion Rustin with law enforcement, landscaping.
Go ahead, Mike.
What's up? I'm Michael Bedell from Bedell Property Management in Southeast Michigan.
And I didn't mention where I was from. I'm actually from Chicago, Illinois, so we all have experience dealing with snow and ice management. Some of us more than others. Why don't we go with the guy who's may have actually done it already, Don? So how's your snow season starting out so far?
So we got a snowfall actually in October, but it didn't really stick around at all. And then actually yesterday was kind of Sunday night into Monday was kind of our first big snowfall. So we got about 15 centimeters. So that's like 6-ish inches of snow. It was pretty warm on Sunday too, so it was one of those heavy, wet kind of snowfalls too, which is always fun. But yeah, typically our season, I do monthly contracts for kind of snow removal. So our season technically starts kind of November 1st and runs till March 31st. So that's how it works for us up here. The heavy snowfall was a little not surprising, but obviously those first couple snowstorms are always like that though. When you get those heavier, wetter snowfalls, at least for us here. And then into the colder winter months, obviously it's a lot drier, easier to move kind of thing. But how about you guys? Any snow anywhere else?
They're predicting it. They're predicting us for next week, but other than that, no snow yet.
Not yet, but we'll see how this week plays out. Somebody between like where Mike Arch is at and me, and I don't know, maybe even out to where Ryan's at, like somebody's going to get something with this low pressure center that's going to form tonight and kind of head up through Ontario and hook around. And how far left it goes, towards Wisconsin will really kind of depend on who gets what, but I admittedly have put a salter in my truck this week. So,
How much are you guys expecting?
It could be nothing. It could be. I mean, like this is this time of year. Like I've done this for 20 years, so I've seen a lot of things, and I would say if I had to put money on it, we'll probably get nothing. But there's been times where nothing is turned into 6 or 8 inches. If it comes down, kind of like what Don said, if it comes down fast and hard enough, it piles up, and then you got to do something about it. So, black sheep lawn. I'm not sure we're talking about the same type of snow, Pablo.
I will.
We have a different kind of snow in Florida, but that's a whole other live stream, I think.
Yeah, out here they're predicting 1 to 2 inches, but the ground's so warm that I don't think it would even stick much if we get that much.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Don,
I was surprised to see how much snow we got the other night. I thought a lot of it would have melted just because of how warm it was on Sunday, but quite a bit of it stuck around, and it kind of snowed all day yesterday. So, Alex, Carey, snow, Don, you can keep it up there. We're not ready yet. This is pretty late for us. Like I said, our contracts usually start November 1st. So obviously, some years you have kind of lighter starts or a later start. And this year, actually, I had more time to do leaf cleanups and that kind of thing, which is kind of nice. There's always we have those transition seasons when you do snow, right? Where you still have your mowers out, you have your leaf blowers out, you have all that kind of stuff ready to go, but you also have your snow blowers ready to go too. And it's the same thing in the spring, right? You have your power rakes, you're getting ready for aerations and all that kind of stuff, but then you still also have your snow blowers ready to go because you never know what's going to happen. But.
Yeah, I haven't even fit my plow mount on my truck yet, and I have to finish up all my fall cleanups this week because that's when my cleanup or my waste removal cuts off for the for all of the greenery stuff, so the natural stuff. So I have to finish that up and have to get everything set up for snow. Hopefully, that'll be pretty quickly. J&J Property Pros asked how many inches of snowfall before you drop the plow. So Orion.
Yeah. Usually we start plowing right about 2 to 3 inches. That's typically when we start to, drop our plows.
Yeah, for me, it all depends on the contract. 2 inches is norm, and then I could have contracts that go down to about 1.5 inches, and even have customers that are calling me to do cleanups when there's even less than 1.5 inches, even though that's what their contract states. So they'll call me up and say, "Hey, come out here and clean it up." So it's all customer focused and depends on what the customer wants as far as that. I do set 2 inches as the threshold basically for everybody. You're not going to get any higher than that. So at 2 inches, I'm out there plowing. That was a change I made a few years ago. I used to let my customers actually pick their threshold. Some customers had 4 inches. Some customers actually had 6 inches as their threshold, and it just created a huge mess. So I was like, 2 inches. If that doesn't work, then I'm not the right guy for you. So lost a few customers that way, but in the long run, it's been a lot easier as far as dealing with the scheduling and everything. And I haven't really missed them much because I've just filled them up with new customers.
Cool. Don, how about you?
So I don't have any plows. I don't plow anything. So I'm just residential. So I do unlimited snow clearings during the month. So I don't have, because just the type of, obviously we get a lot more snow here than you guys would get. Typically I would say. So I do, like I said, a monthly rate, and I go out every time. So as long as there's a snowfall, I say I go out once every 24 hours. So if it's a 3-day event kind of thing, I might be out there 3 times. But we have 48 hours from the time snow stops, technically by bylaws, to get out there. But I also find, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way, sometimes it just works out better for you as the person doing the clearing to go out more times, even if your contract says something otherwise. I find too, like I'm like an hour kind of from the Rocky Mountains, so we can get some pretty big snowfalls, and I don't really want to wait, for 3 days of snow to kind of pile up and people to be walking all over it. Just makes my life a lot more difficult.
Sure.
But yeah, so that it works for me. It's those long snowstorms can be pretty exhausting at times. I find residential to be pretty tough with that kind of thing, but it's good.
That's good.
I do enjoy snow removal, to be honest.
That's good. Wow, that's awesome. Mike, how about you?
So yeah. I mean, one of the big things I just to piggyback on that, I do a lot of residential stuff, and I do have some commercial properties, and that's one of the things that I noticed from having a plow to not having a plow is I was working just as fast with a snowblower as I was with a plow. So it really, I mean, that's the thing. If you're doing residential, you're almost better off just sticking with a snowblower unless you do need to do parking lots and things like that. Overall, I will tell you. So yeah, because even when I get into residential, it's like plowing and then having to get out and do the sidewalks and everything. I'm spending the same amount of time with the snowblower or with the only difference is I guess I'm inside of the cab of the truck as opposed to outside in the elements.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So on that note, when you guys are talking about kind of snow removal and snow blowers, plows, that kind of thing, I know one of the things we've talked about before is the type of equipment that you also use for it. So where I am, it does get very cold, like minus 40 Celsius kind of thing. So a lot of the time, not like the last couple of days, but our snow is usually quite dry and quite light. So I would say probably about 90% of the snowfalls that we get, I use just a backpack leaf blower. I find that to be super effective. It's super quick to use them. It is a little louder, but I find it works, like I said, amazing, like super quick, and it's so easy on my body to just throw a leaf blower on my back rather than pulling snowblower out of my truck kind of thing, or out of the trailer. So I do have a kind of a single stage snowblower, a dual stage snowblower, and then the leaf blowers kind of thing. So I find with that and a shovel, you really, for what I do, I don't. I find I rarely even take out the dual stage snowblower, to be honest with you. Just they're big to take out, and I don't pull it out unless I absolutely have to. But what about you guys?
So I have a single stage, actually two single stages. I have one that's a 2-cycle that I normally use. That thing's a beast of a single stage snowblower. And then I got the plow. If I need to do salting, I just got a push spreader that I used to do for salting. A lot of my commercial properties, first off, one of my commercial properties, they don't want any salt whatsoever. That's like stipulated in their contract. Absolutely no salt. And every once in a while, I'll have one of their residents call me up and ask and try to pressure me into putting salt down and just charge blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. So I have stipulated now in their contract a little note. Make sure to let residents know not to contact me about their de-icing services. So, but yeah, that's the basics of my equipment. That and snow shovels. Yeah, just the snow shovels, the push salter or push spreader, and then but I have the plow, which kind of helps save my back a little bit. But yeah, we get a lot of really heavy wet snow, so that's one of the benefits of having the snow plow, even for residential properties. But Mike, we had a question about how we set up contracts. Do you do your snow removal as part of your yearly residential contracts along with the mowing, or just snow removal?
Well, that's a good question. For residential, in some cases, it kind of all gets blended into like a package. Like we do some high-end condos where things kind of get put together in a package and then spread across the 12 months. And so in that case, the snow plowing and walkway shoveling and then all the de-icing work, yeah, that would be part of the yearly residential contracts. But then we have some other, like some of the estates that I do, those are kind of like a la carte. So those will be kind of a separate agreement that's entered into aside from like the landscape management assessment that they get for the summer months. But no, that's a good question because there's so many different ways to go about doing it. And I know I've found kind of success in, meeting the client where it makes sense for them, whether it's rolling it into one big package or kind of spreading things out. How about you guys?
Yeah, so what I do, I keep them completely separate. And the main reason why is when I deal with my landscaping services, the service area is actually pretty big because those are kind of a lot of one-off services. When I deal with my mowing services, that gets a little narrower. When I deal with snow removal services, because I got to have everything done in 24 hours, that area gets even smaller. So I have customers who are regular, like mowing customers that aren't eligible for snow removal because of where they're located. I actually didn't sign a new customer this year because of that. They wanted a service to do both, and they were out of my snow area, even though they were in my mowing area. So they decided to go with someone else. And I wasn't the right service for them. So that's fine with me because they're probably with the right customer because, well, they wanted both and I can only offer one.
Yeah,
no, Orion.
Yeah, go ahead, Orion.
Oh, yeah. So typically with us, they're separate as well. Everything that Mike said. Again, you talk about route density and having everything close together on the snow side, especially with traveling from site to site with the dangerous road conditions. We prefer to have everything as tight as possible. So yeah, it's totally separate contracts for us, and we keep our route density really tight. So, Don?
Yeah, no, I'm the exact same way. I won't even leave my community, to be honest with you. There's kind of two communities side by side where I am, and I won't go outside of them. I think the root density, as everyone has kind of said, and then also I find with lawn mowing and that kind of thing, you can go on say a Monday and go do these 25 properties or whatever like that, and then come back home. You have that little pocket to hit. You can't do the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday pockets when you're doing snow removal for exactly what Mike said. You need to get it done within 24 hours. And I think another good point that I don't really think about that much, but Orion, the driving conditions, like you don't want to be stuck. I think I remember someone talking about windshield time at one point, and having as little windshield time possible as you can. And I find with snow removal, that's even so much more important. Like I don't turn off my leaf blower. I let it keep running in the back. And if I'm not at the next house within 3 to 4 minutes, like something's up kind of thing. So great points though.
That's great.
Yeah, I get to a point too, trying to keep up efficiency. I actually will carry an extra 5-gallon can so I'll have a 2-gallon for the snow blowers that has a mix in it. But then I'll carry just standard gas in a 5-gallon. That's for my truck in case I get into a place where I'm not going to be around a gas station and I need to fill up. I want to keep moving, keep going. So I'll top that off, and eventually, hopefully by the time I need hopefully by the time that's done, I'll get someplace where I'm able to fill up. But yeah, it's just a matter of, that efficiency, trying to keep everything moving. I think this is where a lot of guys get lost with snow removal, especially if they come out of lawn care. Now, I came out the opposite. I went into snow removal and came into lawn care. But when you come into lawn care, you have everything spread out over a week. You can have a lot larger of an area. You're dividing things into day. You can say this day, this area, this day, that area, that kind of thing. With snow removal, you got 24 hours to do it all. You're dealing with, you could be working, and as soon as you can, you want to be out there clearing things up. You could be out there at 2 a.m., 1 a.m. You can be out there for 24 hours straight with no sleep. It can get really crazy hectic. If you want to that's when you make the big money, is when you're not getting any sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But these are all things that a lot of people don't understand about why there's such different animals, and why there are a lot of people who go into lawn care, go into snow removal, and then leave snow removal because they're not. You gotta be specially built for it.
So actually, to piggyback off of that, for you guys, how do you stay motivated, or how do you stay energized throughout those long stretches of time that you're away from home, or you're out of, you're away from a gas station, you can't get that cup of coffee? How do you guys stay focused or stay energized?
I think the big thing with that is, like, I guess for me personally, because I have such a small area, I am pretty lucky that, if I need a cup of coffee or something like that, like I can swing back by home. But I think the biggest thing with snow removal is being prepared. It does snow removal. You can be as prepared as you want, but the weather guys are wrong. Like, it's supposed to snow, 3 inches one day, and you go to bed and you're pumped, you're ready, you got everything ready, the equipment's ready to go, and then you wake up the next morning and there's nothing. And then vice versa, right? Like, I've had those days where you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm gonna have an easy day, like nothing really going on today, and then you look outside and there's 2 inches of snow, and it's that those can be tough. But I think just being prepared. You mentioned having a cup of coffee. I have a thermos with me all the time, ready to go. And having that food. I think the gas can idea is a great tip for people if you're just getting into it. But it's that, and having the right equipment too, I think, is super important. My first couple of years doing snow removal, I only had a shovel, and that can be some long days if you're just shoveling 20 to 25 properties. So making sure you have the right equipment so it's not so hard on your body. I find too, just making sure you give yourself time to rest. Like, snow can be so hard on your bodies. I think of myself as a pretty fit guy. I work out pretty much 5 days a week, but snow is a different beast, and you get those big snowfalls. It can be so hard to get through. But that's a really good question, though. I like that, Orion. Those snow days are very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike?
Yeah, I just stock up on snacks and caffeine and whatever I can find. It's just a matter of the only speculation is dealing with bathrooms along the way. But that's sometimes you just really got to hold it for a long time if you have to. But yeah,
those are trade secrets. Don't give away trade secrets.
Well, sometimes when that bottle's empty,
I'm pretty. I will say this though. I am pretty fortunate because I have monthly contracts. I kind of have that monthly income. I know how much I'm going to get, so I kind of set my 20 to 25 properties, and I know that I can kind of get by with that kind of thing. So I'm lucky that way. Whereas you guys, if you're doing like by snow events kind of thing, that's a different beast where you're getting, if there was guys coming to me saying, hey, can you come do my property? I'd be tempted to do that and do the 24-hour shifts, but I kind of have my set number and I'm good to go. So I'm fortunate that way.
So one of the questions that came up is about battery power. Has anybody used a battery-powered snowblower? Because I haven't. I'm probably most likely to have used one.
So I haven't. I have done a lot of research into them, and I know some guys even from the EMB group that have used them. I know Phil in Quebec uses one quite a bit. He loves it. I think the biggest concern for me is obviously making sure you have the batteries and keeping them warm is what I've heard from kind of the chats we've had with product guys. It's not an issue. There's enough warmth coming from the battery when it's actually running, but it's between the sites. So it's just like a gas engine kind of thing. There's a reason I leave my leaf blowers running when it's minus 40 because, that there's always still a little bit of a water or ice that builds up in those fuel lines, and then you have trouble starting them up again. So it's just finding a way to make that work, whether that's inside the cab of your truck to keep them warm. But I think if the technology is not there yet, it's very close from what I've heard. And it's just, once again, it's just like lawn maintenance using battery power too. It's getting your trailer set up right or having that power bank in your truck to be able to charge them and keep them warm. But same with gas. Like I said, with leaf blowers, like when it's gotten a couple of years ago, it got down to minus 45, minus 50. And honestly, I'd have 2 leaf blowers and I'd put one in the back of, like in the cab of my truck to keep one warm, just in case the one in the back didn't start again. So, but
wow, that's amazing. That's cool. that's freezing.
Bedell, what about you? Any battery?
No. I mean, you kind of hit on it, right? Like the battery capacity is a limiting factor, and based on the workload that I have, especially in terms of walkways that need to be done and work that the snowblower does, those lines haven't crossed yet, and so for now it's gas powered only. And well, but once it gets there, hey, I don't discriminate.
Yeah, you'll run into a lot of the electric car vehicle fanboys that are like, yeah, my electric truck can plow snow, and that's one of the biggest limiting factors is the batteries in the trucks. Yeah, it can plow snow. You can plow your own driveway, but for to do what we do, we don't have the time to wait for those things to charge. We can go through an entire tank of gas, which is probably I would want to say right around 250 to 300 miles in a day, and I have to refill. So depending on what the storm is like, and you could be crawling and moving, and then you're also in the cold, which the cold doesn't like the batteries. So that's one of a lot of limiting factors too when you start dealing with like electric vehicles and plowing snow is that you can come out with a full charge, but you're not going to keep it for very long.
That's good. Hey, so when you guys are out there, what do you typically, going back to the temperature, what do you guys wear as far as, is there a certain type of material that you're wearing, long johns or thermals? How do you guys typically do that?
Yeah, so it's I think for me personally, it really depends on the jobs that I'm doing and how I'm clearing the snow. I think obviously if you're shoveling snow, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna warm up pretty quick too. But I'm a big layer guy. I don't necessarily for polyester or cotton. I don't get into that kind of thing. But I'm a long john. I usually wear jeans, and then if it's really cold, I actually have a pair of golf rain pants that I find work really well.
Yeah.
Easy to move around in, and it keeps me dry kind of in the lower half of my body. So that's always worked well for me. And then upper body, I usually come home drenched from snow. Like if you're using a leaf blower, snow's going all over the place. But yeah, I think it's very important to stay warm. And that is one thing I will say. That's when you want windshield time, is between those houses when it's minus 40 degrees, is to warm up. But I do leave my truck running between those houses too, just so that when I do get back in there, you can warm up pretty quick if it is that cold. So
That's cool.
Yeah, I usually have some flannel lined work pants that I wear, and long sleeve. I wear basically a long sleeve undershirt, the wicking fabric, and then I'll throw a cotton shirt over top of it. Then I'll usually have a sweatshirt and then a winter coat on top of that. The winter coat usually ends up disappearing at some point in time in the evening, getting tossed to the side. The biggest thing, and I think that's important, is I always bring extra clothes with me, because you're going to get wet. And that's kind of like the worst part of dealing with the cold, is getting wet. A lot of times we'll bring an extra pair of boots with me, just because when those get drenched and those get wet and your feet get wet and cold, that's just really miserable. So socks and like boots are almost a must in my truck. Stocking caps, I usually keep a big stack of them in the truck, as well as gloves to wear, just because that stuff's always getting wet, and you don't want to get hypothermia. That would be bad.
Mike.
Right on. Yeah, no, I look like the Michelin man who mated with a orange traffic cone. I wear this two-piece reflective orange suit, and it's all waterproof material, and it's almost kind of maybe like what Don was describing, where the pant material is actually relatively thin, and kind of like I actually a lot of times wear like basketball shorts underneath it, because even though it's thin, like it gets hot in there. It actually stays pretty warm, and so but it's waterproof boots, obviously, and then it's a thermal jacket that's got like reflective strips, and it's all orange, and so do a decent amount of work in like it's a high profile area, but they're well traveled streets or whatever, and I got into wearing that, I don't know, 6-8 years ago, and it's just kind of stuck. And like some people kind of laugh at it, but it's it's safety, and it keeps me warm. If anything, a lot of times, like you guys were saying, I'm like taking it off in the truck, unless it's a real dry, cold snow, kind of like Don has. A lot of times that humidity comes up when it's snowing, and it's pretty easy to break a sweat. And I hear you guys on the wet clothes. I've definitely toughed out many a shift in some wet socks and shirt, but it is what it is. I think it's part of the fun of getting the money, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned a good point with safety. That's one of the things I always bring with me, is a safety vest with my truck, because especially when you're working at night, even dealing with residential streets, especially, you want people to be able to see it, because they already can't drive a lot of times. And if the snow is coming down, they're going to have trouble seeing you. So you want everything in your favor so that they can see you. I actually have a hat that has like a headlamp built into it too, that I'll wear while I'm out of the truck, or doing whatever, shoveling or snow blowing, just to try so people can see me. And it also helps that I can see around me too.
On your trucks, do you guys have some emergency equipment, flashing lights or anything like that? Do you guys do that? I know, Don, you were saying, between houses, you might leave the truck running or whatnot. Do you keep a light on, or how do you guys?
So I don't have the full emergency lights. I do hazards all the time when I'm out. I know it's not, even just listening to you guys talk about it, I think having a reflective vest is probably something I should do, or look like the Michelin man, like Michael wants to do. But no, I think that's a really good idea, and I think that is something I could step up, is having one of those lights kind of thing. I know a lot of guys do it. I don't know the full legal kind of bylaws behind that. I'd have to look into that a bit more, but I definitely always leave my hazards on for exactly the reason Mike Arch said too. Like, just people are terrible drivers usually when it comes to snowfall, especially at the beginning of the season. I think there was like 300 accidents in the city yesterday or something like that. So it was a good start to the season. It's pretty standard for us to have that many, but yeah, great points, I think, but definitely hazards on.
Yeah, back prior to having a plow, I actually went to Walmart and picked up a little thing to plug into the power outlet of the car that, had a magnet on it that was about this big. Just to kind of, it just was like, it was more like a hazard light than anything else. But what ended up happening was I was parked out on the street, and well, you're not really supposed to do that when there's snow on the ground. And I almost got taken. My truck, even though I almost was sitting there as I'm snow blowing, watching as my vehicle's almost taken out by a city truck. So I thought it might behoove me to kind of add a little something to it to make it more noticeable. Now I actually do have like a magnetic set. Again, they still plug into the 12-volt power outlet, and they're magnetic. They're a little bit larger of a light though for the top of my truck. And yeah, just it really helps you to be seen quite a bit. And I there are times I can tell you that those lights have definitely kept me out of accidents.
Absolutely.
How much snow do you guys get in your market? I know Don's gonna have to do the conversion from centimeters to inches, so we're not all like counting on fingers and toes. But I typically get right around 45 or 50 inches over like a given winter. What about you, Orion?
Yeah, we're usually right around the 20 to 35 mark. It all depends on the year. We typically don't get as much snow as we used to. I don't know if that's across the board for everyone, but yeah. So, like I said, right around that 25-inch to 35-inch mark.
Yeah, our average is right around the 35 to 40 inches. Recently, it's been like 12 inches a year. It's been really rough. We've had a few. It really just depends on the season. I've had seasons where I've cleared maybe like 6 inches the entire season, and then I've had seasons where I've had to deal with 40 or 50 inches in a season. So, but about an average, we're probably around the 34 to 40 inch mark.
I was gonna check. I just checked because I know Michael always asks that question, and I forgot to today. So it says the Calgary average is 136 inches.
Wow.
So fair
And
bit.
people still don't know how to drive, even though you guys get 136 inches.
I don't. I know you guys always joke about me being the Canadian and how small it is up here, but our city has like 1.4 million people now, so we get a lot of people that are coming in from other areas, kind of thing, that really don't know the snowfalls. And I find the first couple snowfalls too, people haven't got their snow tires on yet. People forget how to drive, let's be honest. So it's the first month is usually pretty scary, but then after that, there's a snow on the ground every day, right? So even if it's not snowing, it doesn't melt, so people get used to it. But
it's the same thing here. The first snowfall is always like utter chaos. Everyone's going every which way, and then like you said, by a month or two down the road, people are going 70 and it's snowing sideways. So.
Tokyo drifting the corners.
Yeah. The other thing too is that around here, like that first snowfall is always really rough, but then people realize, oh yeah, if I don't really have to go someplace, I don't go someplace when it's snowing. So the roads are kind of cleared up just with traffic in general. Every once in a while, you'll see the Jeep Wrangler upside down in a ditch because, well, they thought they could because they were driving a Jeep Wrangler. But yeah,
I think honestly, Mike,
bad.
That's a really good point, and I will concur that Monday there seemed to be a lot less people on the roads, and I think a lot of that had to do with COVID and the ability for people to work from home so much easier today than it was 5 years ago. And I think there was less people on the roads. I definitely noticed there was less people driving around, and I'm sure that's probably happening in a lot of places where people are just like, you know what, especially for that kind of snowfall, like it's a Monday morning. Everyone knows it's been one of the first main snowfalls, so I think people were just like, you know what, I'm good. Like,
well, a lot of employers now too will tell their employees, yeah, make sure you bring your laptop home with you. If they're predicting snow, because we probably won't have you come into the office and that kind of thing. So, and it's kind of nice too if you got those lots without employees there, you can get them cleaned a lot easier.
True.
See, Pablo, the Black Sheep Lawn had a question. Do you guys do any preparation on the property the day before, like salt? What about you, Mike Arch? Do you do anything like that?
Absolutely nothing. I'm fielding phone calls from panicking customers because they're making sure, are you going to be out here, right? I'm like, yeah, I am, like I always am. Uh, that's about pretty much the preparation I'm doing the day before. I don't deal with a lot of de-icing. It's only when in extreme circumstances that I'll de-ice. So I don't do any kind of real prep work or anything. And even afterwards, it's just literally, for the most part, getting rid of the snow and then letting Mother Nature just melt whatever's little bit is left on the asphalt or whatever away. So
This is a really good question, and I think it leads into something we can chat about with contracts and that kind of thing in terms of ice management kind of thing. But similar, Mike, I don't do any prep kind of before. I don't offer kind of ice management services to my clients. I just do snow removal. I do that kind of from a liability standpoint as well, just to protect myself, to say I clear the snow, I don't manage the ice. We get a lot of Chinooks. I'll let Mike Bedell explain that to you guys. But we get a lot of, and obviously with the amount of snow we get snow, it'll melt for 2 days, and then the driveways are just covered in ice kind of thing. So if you start doing salting and all that kind of thing, it becomes a huge headache to get out there every time. I will say though that I do carry salt with me and ice melt with me. I'm not going to leave a job site. If the sidewalk is that bad, I'm going to put some salt down. But I don't do it from a liability standpoint. But
Yeah. So for us, we typically do a pre-treatment of salt on all of our commercial sites, and then again, some of the clients will ask for it if it's not already spelled out in a contract. They will say, "Hey, can you guys come by and pre-treat?" We will lay an application of salt down. We are starting to get into some brine mix and things like that. We'll probably go live with that next year. But again, from a pre-treatment standpoint, yes, we definitely get out and do that. And then also on the flip side, even after we plow, we typically will go back out later that evening or whenever that time period's done, once nightfall comes, and do another salt application on a refreeze. And typically your refreezes can last anywhere from just the next day all the way up to 2 weeks later, depending on the weather during the day. So yeah, we typically do.
Yeah, well said, Orion. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you there. There's a lot of opportunity both before and afterwards to serve clients, and it's yeah, I think it's something to take away from this conversation is we're like Don and Mike Arch. They have like tighter parameters and they know exactly what they're looking for. They're kind of like someone who's hitting in baseball. They're looking for a certain pitch, and if they don't see it, they're not swinging, right? Versus like maybe you and I are just we're maybe swinging for the fences a little bit more in terms of what we're trying to do with it, and so we're swinging at more pitches, if you will, and we're doing salt and we're taking on some additional liability, but in turn it increases the workflow and the revenue, or even beyond the de-icing, earlier Mike Arch mentioned if it's not 2 inches, you're not doing it. And I thought that was interesting because actually I've over the years taken on stuff where it's like snowbirds accounts, and maybe they don't need you there every 2 inches, but if it piles up, they don't want it to look vacant all winter. And it doesn't need to be done in the first 24 hours. And so it's kind of, work you can get to after the fact, or, during the Great Recession, we got into doing this thing called dark property management with like vacant commercial properties. And it was like basically like fire lane access around the building. That way, if someone needed to get in, they could, but like the building was vacant. The landlord was way upside down in terms of cash flow. And so there's a bazillion ways to make money in this industry. And hopefully people from listening to us talk have kind of that can be one of their takeaways, is like they don't necessarily have to do all this salting or or take on liability, and they can be in a whole host of different markets. And we all seem to still want to do it year after year, right? So either we're crazy or there's some money in this.
We're crazy, that's for sure.
Now, there was one question actually that I came up on one of my on my personal site that I kind of want to ask you guys about, and what you think about. Can someone do snow removal if they have a regular Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job, and can they still do that part time?
So I have a full-time job and I do snow removal. So it's not easy. There are some long days, but you can definitely do it. And I think like we talked about, the tight root density, that's huge. Coming back to something that Orion said, those long days can be tough to be motivating. So you got to be pretty dedicated to what you're doing and wanting to provide that service to your clients. But you also just need to know your limits, right? In terms of, like, coming back to what I said before, like 20 to 25 clients, if that's what you can do and you can get to those, then you definitely can do it. And I guess I'm living proof of it. But I do know a lot of other people that have done it, and it's difficult, but it's doable.
Yeah, I would totally echo everything that Don said. I think, I'm a big proponent of whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish, right? So if that's something that, you want to explore or want to do, be very specific about what it is you will and won't do and what you will and won't take on, and go for it. That's
I think that's a really good point, and I think that kind of comes back to what Mike was just talking about knowing, like, I'm very specific with my services that I offer, and I think I've had to become that way just because I can't do everything. So I try to pick what I think I'm good at, and I focus on that kind of thing. But Mike, I'm sure you have more to say on that.
Yeah, so the advice that I said was just make sure that you communicate to your customers that you do have a regular 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. So if it snows and it needs to be cleaned up at noon, you're not going to be there until, whenever you get done with work, or, either that, or if it snows overnight, if you don't get to it before you have to be at work, it's not going to get done until after you get done for work, that kind of thing. So your customers have those expectations in mind already. And that's one of the big things for me. What I'm getting very particular about with snow removal is because I'm getting to a point now where I'm going to have to figure out either do some pretty massive expansion to try to start hiring employees, or figure out how to keep everything really tight so that it's just me. Recently, I've been just trying to keep everything really tight so it's just me, and trying to figure out if I really do want to try to expand. Right now, one of the issues that I really realized realized it last season, and I've been working on trying to get it up this season, was I'm not charging enough for my services. Yeah, I'm able to make money as a solo operator, but when it comes in to having to start hiring people and things like that, I'm not going to have the funds for it. So every single year I got to do a rate increase. And I actually sat down this year and I did a square foot pricing for all of my jobs. I sat down with one property and that I was charging $50 for last year, and found out that if I charged them my square foot pricing, it should be $150 per push for that property. That's a big jump. And it's being a residential property, that's a big jump for one person. So I kind of have to try to incrementally pick myself up there. So yeah, right now I am trying to really set limits, I guess you can say, because I don't have the place to expand, but at the same time, I need to start getting those funds and making the money and making incremental price adjustments to be able to grow and expand on that front.
That makes sense. Well said. Well said. Cool. Well, this has been a fun chat, guys. I'm glad we chatted about this, and who knows? Maybe we've either done the snow dance or we've prevented it from going away. I think we're too late for Don, but we'll see how the rest of us fare this week on this call. Orion, do you have a salter in or anything? Are you guys ready to go if it hits the fan this week, or?
We are not. Looks like some long
at
days
least
coming up.
At least you're honest.
Yeah.
Attaboy. Ride the lightning.
Oh, snow is an acronym for stuff no one wants.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's totally true, man. That is well said. But I don't know. I like that snow money. That's probably why, we're talking about motivation. That's probably why I keep coming back to this and doing this is the juice is worth the squeeze if you make it. So.
My wife loves the snow, and it really enjoys since I went into snow removal because I love the snow now too. And I go, no, that's not snow falling. Those are dollar signs.
That's true. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. We'll see if we have one next month. We don't have anything scheduled yet, but that doesn't mean that we won't have another one of these. So stay tuned to Echo Means Business on your social media channel of choice, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You know the drill. And if we don't catch you on that one, obviously, everyone have a good Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, whatever holidays you choose to celebrate or not. We hope that they are happy and merry and you guys are all safe and good to each other. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Be safe. Good chatting with all you guys.